Good day, everyone. It's Alkali Shepherd. Today, we are going to look at a job assessment that was given to individuals that applied for a senior data analyst role in a particular organization. You've probably been wondering what a data analyst job test might look like and how to approach it. This is the perfect video for you to get started. I'll be making more videos like this from time to time, and I expect you to look out for them. And please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, then. So let's begin with what we have today. So clearly you can see the instruction says create an answer sheet and structure your responses appropriately. Ensure you interpret each chart when answering the question. The duration of this assessment is 1 hour 30 minutes. 1 hour 30 minutes. This is what you should actually pay attention to, and you should be mindful of that. And it says, please note that the date is hypothetical. So I'll quickly walk us through every question we have here before we proceed to the answering. Now, the first question says, describe the patients presenting their socio-demographic characteristics using appropriate charts. That is the first question. The second one says, what are the minimum, maximum, average, and median ages of the patients? Third one says, what is the average length of stay of patients in the facilities? Fourth one is, if senior citizens are those older than 64 years old, hit the main database sheet and complete column H with yes if the person is a senior citizen, and no if the person is not a senior citizen. For those who spent 10 days in the facilities, what percentage are senior citizens? With the aid of an appropriate chart, describe the outcome of patients by the type of facility they sought care. Aid of an appropriate chart, describe the outcome of patients by the health worker who provided care. The next one is describe the male patients who died by their age group, the type of facilities they sought care, and the health worker who provided care. Answer this question with the aid of an appropriate chart using age groupings of your choice. Describe the female patients who died by their age group, the type of facilities they sought care, and the health worker who provided care. Answer this question with the aid of an appropriate chart using age groupings of your choice. You can see 30 points is the maximum points that can be allocated. So let's quickly look at the main database and see what data has been presented to us. Good. Now you can see the first column is the serial number column. The second one the second column is containing the name of the patients. The next column is the gender, depending on if you are female or male. The next column is the age of the patient. Every patient is expected to have age. The next one is the facility type. Now there are three possible facilities. It's either it's a primary healthcare center, it's either it's a public secondary facility, or it's a private facility. These are the possible facilities any patient can be admitted into. Now, the next column is the length of stay of days, the length of stay of patients in facility. Now, this is the amount of days you spent before the possible outcomes we have. So these are the possible outcomes, and there are three possible outcomes. And either you are discharged, you are referred, or you died. These are the three possible outcomes. And the other column says type of health worker who provided care to patient. Now, there are three health workers who can provide care in this context. And these are the nurses, doctors, and the TBAs. Now, the TBA stands for traditional birth attendant. This is very common here in Nigeria, Western Africa. And the last column we have is the patient, the senior citizen. So subsequently, you'll be seeing what we are going to do in this particular column. Now, I've created a sheet which I called answers. If you remember from the instruction, we were asked to create a sheet that is actually going to carry all the answers you'll be presenting for those exercises. And this is the sheet that I've created. So endeavor to do so. So when presented with a question like this, the first thing I ask myself is what columns represent the socio-demographic characteristics? So there's a possibility you have just one column, and there's a possibility you might have more than one column. So in a situation where you have more than one column, you definitely have to describe each of those columns. Now, looking at the database we have been given, we obviously have two socio-demographic characteristics, which includes gender and the age of the patients. Now let's see how we can describe these columns. Now, when they say describe, they basically are asking for descriptive statistics, and that includes frequencies, percentages, mean, median, but um, we're definitely just going to limit ourselves to the frequencies and the percentages of these columns. Create a pivot table out of this. So I control A, then I come to insert. Now you can see we have the pivot table option. So select this and select existing worksheet because we have a sheet that is designated for this purpose. Select answers, then select any vacant cell. Then I enter. I have successfully created a pivot table. Now, the first socio-demographic characteristic is the gender. Now, we shall see the population, that is the frequency, and we shall also see the percentages, right? Then I quickly just drag gender to rows. You can see we have female, male, and no answer. Then I drag gender to values. Now, on dragging gender to values, you can see at the top here, we have count of gender. Now, the column gender contains text. The data that is within the column, which is gender, are text-based values. So Excel cannot sum because by default, Excel is expected to sum those values for us. But Excel can't sum text, so we are basically given the count, and this is what we want, frequency, right? Now you can see we have 258 females, we have 226 males, and we have 11 no answers. What can I see out of this? What I can say is women are more admitted than the males, right? And this is a good thing because in a place like Western Africa, women are actually limited to accessing healthcare than their male counterparts. All right, then. So I've successfully seen the count. Now let's see their percentages out of the total. So I quickly just duplicate this pivot table, Control C, then I Control V, something like this. Currently, we have the count, but I want to actually show these values as percentage of the column total. You can see the column total here is 495. So I actually want to express these values based on this value as percentages. So I right click this, then I come to show values as, then I see percentage of column total. On selecting this, you can see everything just adjusts. See the column total is now 100%. You can see males constitute 45% out of the total 100%, and those that have no answer are quite negligible. We were asked to use appropriate charts to describe this. So looking at this, I can use a pie chart to describe this information I have. So just select this pivot table, then come to insert. On coming to insert, you can see we have this group that is called charts. Then you can come to the pie chart here, select. Now there are different pie charts we have, but this is the one I'll be making use of. So just select this one, and you can see what I have clearly. So come to pivot chart analyze, then select field buttons, and you can see all those buttons are gone. Then hit this plus sign you have, then select data labels. I actually want to see the data labels printed on it like this. And this is actually looking good. Then for the title of the chart, you can call this, and this is actually good. So just adjust the size a little. So drag, just stay side by side with pivot table. Then you can just come to format. Then you say no outline. Now this is actually good. So I've actually described a particular socio-demographic characteristic, which is gender, and I've actually used an appropriate class to describe it also. Now just do something for me. Come to view, then you can say take out the grid line. I don't want the grid line. So then insert two more lines at the top like this. That's what I'm trying to do. Good. Now all you just do is you highlight from here to probably R, then come home, then select a border. So you have a border at the bottom. Then you can just call this and just highlight again. Then merge in the center. Question 1. Then you can just increase the size. Good. So successfully labeled the question we are answering. So all I'm saying is this is the first question we are answering. Now, the next one which I'll be looking at is the second socio-demographic characteristic. That is the age. And that is the age. So how do we go about this? So I quickly just come to my main database. So I can start to insert another pivot table. Or I can start to just duplicate any of the pivot tables I have there. So let me just insert another pivot table for learning sake. So highlight every data here, come to insert, then select pivot table. Then you can say existing worksheet, come to answers, then select a cell. So let me just select this one. So make sure you give 3 spaces between the pivot tables, then enter. Good. Now you can see I have one pivot table. Now, age is a very, very important socio-demographic characteristic. Now, let's see how we can work with this. So if I drag age of patient to row, what have you observed? You can observe I have a very long list. Presenting this information to your instructors or the people assessing you might look cumbersome and they might not take you seriously. So it's advisable when you have ages like this, you tend to group them, you tend to give them brackets that. So how do I group ages using Microsoft Excel? There are 2 ways you can decide to group this. You can decide to just give fixed class intervals, that is interval of 5 or an interval of 10 till you get to the maximum age, or group you can decide to group these ages based on demographic, in the sense that you can decide to group based on teenagers, adolescent, adult, and young adult, and that kind of situation, right? This is what I'm trying to say. So I'll show you the first way you can group. That is by giving fixed intervals. Select any value within the pivot table, then right click and come to group. Now, on selecting this, you can see this is saying starting at 15, ending at 100. So Excel has detected 15 to be the least age, and it has detected 100 to be the maximum age here. So how do you want the interval to be? So I want the interval to be by 10, then I enter. Now, what have you observed? Excel has successfully grouped these ages for you on a particular fixed interval, which is the interval of 10. Select this, then bring out your field list. Now, I actually want to see the count. I want to see the count of ages within these brackets or within these groups. When I drag age of patients to valued, now you can see. So it is saying within 15 to 24 years of age, we have 68 patients that fall in this group. Within 25 to 34 years of age, we have 59 patients that fall within this group, and so on and so forth. Now, this is just one way to do this. I advise you group your ages based on age demography. Gives your instructors or the people assessing you, gives them a clue that you actually know what you're doing and you're not just doing this for the first time. You've actually had experience doing things like this. So all I'm just going to do is I'll right click here, then I ungroup. This is what I should do. Good. Now, like I've said, I'm going to group this based on age demography. I'll give this an age structure. So I highlight from 15 to 17. Then I right click. Then I group. Good. So I call this group less than 18. Now I highlight from 18 to 44. Then I right click. Then I group. I call this group 18 to 44. Then I enter. Now I highlight from 45 to 64. I right click. Then I group. I call this group 45 to 64. Then I enter. Then for this down to 100, I right click. Then I group. I call this greater than 64. Then I enter. Now you can see the various groups we have. So you can see we have the less than 18 group, we have the 18 to 44 group, we have the 45 to 64 group, and we have the greater than 64. So you can clearly see the interpretations we have. You can see the most populated out of the admitted are 203, which is those greater than 64. And this makes sense because it's normal that as you age, your body system tends to deteriorate. These individuals tend to seek more medical attention than any other group within this database that we have. So these are just certain interpretations I can make out of the data we have. So we can clearly see the frequencies. What about the percentages? So I just duplicate this pivot table again, Control C, then I Control V like this. So do not forget we're still answering number one. be mindful of your time. Be mindful of your time. Well, I'm actually taking my time to explain all these things because I actually want to paint a proper picture in our minds. Okay, so all I just need to do is right click, then I come to show values as, then I select percentage of column total. You can see we successfully have percentages like this, and this is good enough. So how will I want to represent this data? I'm actually going to use a column chart. So all I just need to do is I highlight this pivot table. I just select any cell in the pivot table, then I come to insert, and I come to this. You can see we have insert column or bar chart. So select this, then select this very first one that says clustered column. So select field buttons in pivot table, in pivot chart analyze, and all those buttons go. Select the grid lines. I don't want this. We select, we delete. You can also delete this one. Okay, I can just let this one be. Or better still, okay, I just delete this one. Legend. Then select the plot sign. This plot sign you have in your chart, on your chart. Then select data labels. Now on selecting this, you can see the frequencies are actually shown at the very top, but I don't want this. I actually want the labels to be the percentages. That is, these percentages we have here. Let me close this field list. That is, these percentages we have. So how do I achieve this? So just select this once more, so hit the cross sign, then come to data labels, then hit this arrow. Now you can see you have other options. So select more options. On selecting more options, you can see we have values from cells. So I select this. On selecting this, you can see a dialog box just pops out telling you select data label range. So this is the range I will select. I okay. Good. On doing this, you can now deselect, you can now select values from cells and deselect. You can decide to leave it. You can see they are actually aligned side by side. Or you can decide to just take out the ideal values and leave out the percentages. When I close this, you can see we have something like this. And it's actually looking good. So come to format, then shape outline, you say no outline, then control one. On hitting control one, you should have this pane come out like this and come to fill, then you say no fill. And this is looking good. Now you can see it is transparent and that is good. So for this first pie chart, I do the same thing, control one, you select no fill. You're looking good. So just drag this place at the, okay, this should be at the top. Reduce the size of this bar chart. So this one we can say, then I can just reduce the size of the text and quite good enough. I've successfully described the socio-demographic characteristics we have with appropriate charts to match with it. So from here, you can see clearly someone can tell that the greater percentage of patients that were admitted fall within the age group, which is greater than 64, or falls within the category greater than 64. And you should always be mindful of your time. So how do we get the minimum, maximum, average, and median ages of the patient? So all I just have to do is I come to answers as quick as possible. Then I highlight from here to the column, to the column R. Then you just merge and center, and you call this question 2. Select this, then give it a border at the bottom. Good. Now this means we've entered the second question. So the first thing we were asked is maximum age. So I can just type maximum age like this. Good. So for the maximum age, how do I get the maximum age? So there's a formula which is called max. You can see here, I actually have maximum age. So I aim at bringing out the value for the maximum age here. How I can do this is equal to, then I type out max. Now you can see this formula which says max. Now returns the largest value in a set of values, ignores logical values and text. Good. So open your bracket. Now, since I've done this, come to main database and locate the column for age. Now highlight every age you have within this table, enter. Now, what did you see was returned? You can see 100 was returned. It means the maximum age is actually 100. Minimum age. So there's also a formula which is called the minimum. So is mean. So when I type out equal to the min, you can see we have mean. Now this is returns the smallest number in a set of values. So just double click this, then come to your main database, then highlight the age column, then enter. Now you can see the minimum age is 15, which is actually true. How do we get the average age? So the average, you just type out average age here, then so there's actually a formula which is average. So just type out equal, then average. Like this. Now you can see we have the average here. So I select this, then I come to main database, and I select all the values within the column. Then I enter. Now you can see the average age is 56.4. Let me just reduce this decimal places. I have too many decimal places. Let me just reduce this to no decimal place. Average age. And the last one says median. So how do I get the median of these ages? So there's actually a formula which is called median. So, or there's a function which is called median. So I just do this, double click, and come to main database and select every value within the age column. I can see the median age is 57, and this is good to go. So we can just highlight all this and give it a kind of a tabular feel. Then just select all borders, and this is good. So when your examiner sees this, he knows you actually know what you're doing. There is no much complication in what I just did. Just watch the video carefully and repeat after me. So average length of stay of patients in the facility. All we just have to do is find the average of the all we just have to do is find the average of the length of stay of these patients. So I can just type out average length of stay. Just type out average, then I double click this, and it comes to main database. So we have a column which is length of stay of patients and facilities. That they actually want to know the average of the length of stay of the patients and facilities. So I just highlight every value within this column, then I enter. Now you can see the average length of stay of every patient in this database is 5.5. So I can just reduce this, use the number of decimal places. So I can just leave this to two decimal places and just highlight this. And you can give this a tabular fill, and this is good enough. Question number 4 says, if senior citizens are those older than 64 years old, remember, this is a hint. This is actually what I used when grouping my ages in the first question. Now they said, if senior citizens are those older than 64 years old, duplicate the main database sheet and complete column H with yes. If the person is a senior citizen and no, the person is not a senior citizen, column H is actually column I. Now I enter. Now, so coming back to the main database, so all they want to know is they want to know which patient is a senior citizen and which patient is not a senior citizen. So these are two groups, the group of senior citizens and the group of, let's say, junior citizens. So come back to main database and you can see this last column is actually blank. And this is the column, you can see column I. So now this is where we insert the yes and the no's. So how do we do this? So there are so many ways to approach a particular answer. It all depends on what pops up in your head. I'm actually going to be using an if function. So equal to, then I say if, I double click. Let me just bring out my, okay, sorry, let me clear this out. Enter. Let me come to view, then I bring out my formula bar. I want everybody to follow along. Call if, then I double click this, then I come to this effect here, then I bring out the dialog box. Now the first one is the logical test, right? So we are saying Everybody above 64 years, um, yes should appear for that particular individual. And if the person is below 64, no should appear for that particular individual. So my logical test will say this greater than 64, it should return. So when D2, that is when 57 is greater than 64, it should return yes. Hope you observe the quotation mark. This is a string, so I have to add quotation marks. And if it is false, it should return no. And this is just all I need to do. So if D2 greater than 64, return yes. If not, if false, return no. Then I okay. I can see for the first guy we have no. So I just double click. You can see the answer spread across. Now, so this individual has an age of 39, and you can see no has appeared. For this individual is 77 years old, and you can see yes appeared. So this is just how you can do this as simple. I just Control C, come down. So just Control B. Now, instead of question 4, this becomes question 5. So come to pivot table, analyze, then select field list. Now take out all this field you have within the pivot table, and this is where you have a fresh one. To determine what percentage are senior citizens and what percentage are not senior citizens, we drag this field, which says is the patient a senior citizen, to row, and we drag this same field to values. Now let's just call this percentage, since this is what we plan to achieve here, although it is not yet percentage. Now you can obviously see that we have 292 individuals that said no when asked if they are senior citizens, right? So no for 292 and yes 203. So this implies 203 patients are senior citizens, but they asked us that stayed 10 days. So we want to know out of all the individuals that stayed 10 days, we want to see the percentage that are senior citizens and the percentage that are not. So for us to be able to get that, for us to be able to get the the total population for those that spent 10 days in the hospital, we need to drag the length of stay of patients in the facility to filters. Before we can do that, insert a line first of all here. Make sure you have about two, make sure you have about two lines between the pivot table and the border bottom you have here. Now select your pivot table again, then drag length of stay of days down to this place. Now on doing that, you can see automatically it selected 10 for us. But in case yours does not select 10 by default, just know that you can just hit that drop down you have and select for whatever day. So if you were asked for those that spent 7 days, all you just have to do is select 10 and select 7. But since we asked for the patients that spent 10 days, so we select 10 and enter. Now you can see the total population of patients that spent 10 days in the hospital. Out of the total, 22 are senior citizens. Out of the 49, 22 are senior citizens and 27 are not. So for us to get this in percentage, I just right click, then I come to show values as, then I select percentage of column total. And we've successfully done that. From here, you can just change the labels. So this one you call senior citizens. And this one, let's give it the nomenclature of junior citizens. I don't know if that exists. Let's just name it that way. And we've successfully done that. So I can just leave this like this and we're all good. So I quickly just duplicate any of these pivot tables. Now just select this one. Just select any pivot table and I just, yeah, good. So now I bring out my field list. So I take out everything I can find within this pivot table. So I want to describe the outcome by the facilities they sought care. So I just locate the field which says outcome of patient, then I drag this to rows. Locate the column which contains the information for the facilities, then I drag this to columns, and you can see what we have. Now you can drag outcome of patient to values, and you can see what we have now. So quickly just highlight this pivot table, come home, come to format and say autofill. And what we now have, by describing, we actually want to see the frequencies and the percentages, right? So I can just duplicate this pivot table once more. Now, the reason why I tend to create a separate pivot table for the frequencies and a separate pivot table for the percentages is because if I decide to, let's say, put the frequencies and the percentages in one pivot table, when I want to, when I want to create a chart, probably let's say a bar chart out of the pivot table, I tend to have a kind of weird response. I tend to have a kind of weird outcome, especially when I bring out the data labels. I don't want that. So that's why I just tend to separate the pivot tables like this. It actually doesn't cost me anything, right? As long as you are fast with your keys and you know how to move your hands properly with Excel, you'll be able to do this within 1 minute or so. And always be mindful of your time, which is 1 hour 30 minutes. So I just come here, then I right click, then I show values as percentage of have our values in percentages. Now, the next thing I'll be doing is I'll be representing with an appropriate chart. So how do I do this? So select this pivot table, come to insert, and come to um, come to column charts. Then select this very first one. Good. So you can see we have a clustered column because we have three different facilities, right? We have three different facilities that in this database, so we tend to have three bars representing a particular facility. So select this field button so that all those buttons we have around it can go away. Then for the grid lines, I actually don't want this. So I delete and I just close this field list at the far right here. Then I can now drag my chart to somewhere around the right. Good. Come to format. Then you say no outline and this is good enough. But I actually want to add data labels, and the data labels should be the percentages, not the frequencies itself. So when I select this plus sign, you can see I have data labels here. So when I check this box, you can see only the frequencies are being displayed, but I actually don't want the frequencies being displayed. I want the percentages to be displayed. So come to data labels, then hit this arrow at the far right. Then you can see more options. Select more options. Then you can see by default, it selects the first bars, first column, the first bars, which is now you can see the first bar represents primary healthcare. So for me to do this, I just hit the plus sign, hit this arrow at the far right, then I select more options. You can see this option that says value from cells. Now check this box and it gives you the ability to select a range. So for the first bar, this stands for primary healthcare center, right? So this is the column I highlight. Enter. Good. So check this box, then deselect this one. Now select for the next one. Now select values from cells. Now this orange bars stand for private facilities. So it means I'll be highlighting this range of values. Then I enter. So check values from cells, then deselect value. Now I move to the next bar. Good. So select values from cells. So the last bar stands for public secondary facility. Then I enter. Now check this box which says value from cells, then deselect value. And you can now close it. Now you can see that the percentages are properly represented. I've successfully described You can see I've successfully described the outcome of the patient by the facilities in sought care, and I've provided a chart that properly represents this information. Good. Now question 7 says, with the aid of an appropriate with the aid of an appropriate chart, describe the outcome of patients by the healthcare worker who provided care. So this is just more like substituting facility the sought care with healthcare worker who provided care, and that's all. Come back to the answers. Then I duplicate any of these pivot tables, but make sure you select the entire pivot table, not just Control C and Control V. Good. So come to pivot table analyze, then come to field list. Now take out facility type, then drag type of healthcare worker, and this is what we have. And you can just duplicate this one to now have a pivot table for their percentages. Control C, then I control V. Now right click, come to show values as, then percentage of column total. Now you've successfully expressed, successfully described as frequencies and as percentages. Now let's introduce a chart. So I just come to insert, then I come to column charts and select this one, this column. Now, good. On doing this, then select this grid lines and delete. I don't want that. Select field buttons option, and this is looking good enough. I want data labels to be displayed. So hit the plus sign and check the box which says data labels. Clearly, you can see the frequencies are being displayed, not the percentages. So I feel like I want the percentages to be displayed instead of the frequencies. This doesn't mean you can't leave the frequencies, but I just feel I want to display them based on the percentages. So I just click this option, this arrow at the far right, and come to more options. Then now you can see the first one has been selected, which is the blue area, and the blue area represents that for doctors, right? So come to value from cells, then now select the range. So since we are doing for doctors, since the blue area stands or represents doctors, so I just highlight this area, then I enter. Good. So check this box that says value from cells, then now, the same thing you do for the orange area. The orange area represents the nurses. So select values from cells, then select this range. Uh, Now check the value from cells and select the values. Then move to the next area which represents the TBA. Now check value from cell, then select this area here, then enter. Now on doing this, check this box again, deselect this box and close. So I duplicate this pivot table I have here. So control C this, and you can control V like this. Good. So come to pivot table and analyze, then bring out your field list. Now take out everything you have within this pivot table. Good. So want to describe the male gender based on their age group, the facilities they sought care, and the healthcare worker that attended to them. So first things first, I drag gender to row. So on doing this, I drag after doing this. So the first thing we asked is the age group. They want us to describe the male gender by the age group, by the health facilities, and by the healthcare workers. So first of all, I drag age to row. Now you can see we have it like this, right? But what another thing I think I should do is I drag gender to filters because we asked for just the males, not for females and males, right? We asked for just the male. To drag gender to filters, then filter out information for just the male. Select multiple here, select all, select just for male, enter. Now every information you have within this pivot table is going to be that of a male. So just select from 15 to 17, do the age grouping we did earlier on, right click, group. And you can see that our pivot table was able to remember the grouping we did and just automatically does that. So you can see our pivot table was able to remember. So it just automatically does the grouping. Every moment I click on group, I drag age to values. So I just come here, I right click, then I come to summarize values by count, not as sum. I want the values to be summarized by count. Now you can see we have the total population of males, which is 226, right? And successfully described the frequency. Now, what about the percentages? I drag age of patient once more to values and just right click this, come to summarize values by, then by count. So since we're describing, we need frequencies and percentages. So I call this one frequency, then I call this one percentage. Now we are describing the male patients who died by their age group. So for those that died, I just drag outcome of patients to columns, and we should have something like this. And we should have something like this. So on doing that, I just select this drop down I have, which this drop down you have next to the column labels. Just select this. then deselect everything, then select died, enter. Now you can see. So for this total frequency, total percentages, not quite needed. So I come to design, then for subtotals, for grand total, so I say off for rows and columns. Sorry, Control Z. So I say for grand total, off for columns only. And this is what we have. So I've successfully described the male patient that died based on their age group, right? And this is good enough. So the next one I'll be doing for the health facilities and for the healthcare. So just highlight like this, Control C, and adjacent to this, Control V, and you should have something like this, right? But this time around, instead of the age groups, we need just the health facilities. I take out everything pertaining to age, then I drag facility type to rows, and you can see what we have. So I just expand this a little, and this is good enough, right? So this is just all I'll have to do for every other description we've been asked to do. So duplicate this, Control C, then adjacent to this one, just paste. Good. Instead of the facility type this time around, I just replace with the healthcare worker. Drag this to here, and this is good enough. So just expand. Make sure everything fits, and this is good enough. So you can see how we have it presented, and not quite complex. So I've successfully described male patients that died by by their age, by their facilities that is sought care, and by the healthcare workers that provided help to them. Now the same thing we did for the male is the same thing we did for the male gender, what we are expected to do for the female gender in question 9. The most logical thing to do, duplicate pivot tables again and just filter out for females. This is what I'll do. So Control C like this, then come here and Control B. You can see that. So all you just now have to do is filter out for females this time around. So instead of male, you select female, then you enter. Instead of male, you select female, and this is good. Instead of male, you select female, and you can see how those changes have been effected. And as easy as this, you produced question 8, you answered question 8 and question 9. You can observe that I actually then convert my frequencies here to percentages. So I'll quickly just do that. Show values as percentage of column. Okay, so I just come to view, then I take out my formula bar. Good. Now I can just name some of those charts I actually didn't name. So for this one, I just select, then hit the plus sign. Then you can select chart title. Select chart title like this. Then you can give it a proper name. So what name should we give to this? So look at the pivot table properly. So so this is count of outcome of patient. Outcome of And the same thing I do for this pivot table chart also. I hit the plus sign and I select a title. It's going to be these we have successfully answered exercises, or should I say, we successfully answered the test questions given to these individuals looking for the senior data analyst in a particular organization. Actually, real life works. Actually, real life work. A friend of mine was privileged to be part of those individuals that wrote this test. So he sent it to me, and I felt I should do a video to show the general public how some of these tests can come, and how you might prepare yourself for such tests. So I remain Al Kali Shepherd, and please endeavor to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.